Good morning to everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Brother Lawson, so good to see
Good
you.
morning. Likewise. Likewise. Glad to see everybody.
Seems like just yesterday, my brother.
It does, doesn't it?
Sounds like Sam.
Your hair shorter and do something greater, you know.
I don't see a picture of it. Where is he? There he is. Yeah. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Dr. Tarver. How are things with you, sir?
I'm doing fine.
You're looking very chipper, like the statesman you are.
I'm trying to keep up with you guys.
It's good to see you, man.
And of course, where the ladies, there we are. Miss Smith, Miss Williams just moved around. I lost Miss Smith. Where did she go to?
I thought I saw Miss Williams too, my seatmate.
Oh, there she is. Yeah. Dr. Sanhu, Miss Tracy.
Good morning, sir.
Being to order. And members, for your own knowledge, board members Garvey, Miss Christy Reeves, who you'll meet momentarily, and myself are in the boardroom. That's why we're not populated in any individual square. I'll now invite my own pastor, Dr. Joseph James Mitchell, of the True Vine Baptist Church, to offer our invocation this morning.
With heads bowed. Dear God, we are truly grateful for this day and for all that you've given us. We thank you for this institution of higher education, Southern University. You've sustained it through the years by the guidance of men and women who have dedicated themselves to enriching the lives of others through this educational process. Now, Lord, in this season of our lives with so many uncertainties and all other institutions in the world, we thank you for these servants who are still committed to the work of educating others. We ask your special blessing upon each one who've been sworn in on today to the Board of Supervisors for the Southern University system. We pray for the president of this board as he leads the officers in the affairs and works of supervising those operations for this university. Pray your blessing upon every life that is impacted, every student, every family member, and pray that we will all be able to gloriously look back and see a job that has been well done by each and every one. Thank you. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Best pastor on this side of heaven. Thank you, Pastor Mitchell.
God bless you.
All right. Colleagues, bear with me. I'm required to read this. This comes as a reminder to please mute your phones so that distractions are limited. Also, if you have public comments that are germane to this agenda, the staff is standing by to receive your comments. So please send them to us or email them to us at public_comments@sus.edu. Again, public_comments@sus.edu. Or you may also call 225-771-4364. You may also log on to our website at www.sus.edu and click on SU Board, then Current Packet, and there is a link dedicated to the online submission of public comments there. And we will take the public comments in the order and at the time we receive them. We go now to item 3, the installation of new members. Am I turning this over to Ms. Blosh or Mr. DeQueer? Okay, Mr. DeQueer. And if we'll begin with Ms. Reeves first, since she's here in the room, and then we'll go from there.
I state your first name
Jody Amity is trying to get in.
and last name. Sorry.
Y'all hear me?
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and Constitution and laws of this state, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as member of the Board of Supervisors for Southern University, according to the best of my ability and understanding. So help me God. Congratulations. Then,
Okay, who do you want to go to next? Oh,
Mr. Lawson.
okay, yeah, we'll go to the new members, right? We'll go to Mr. Lawson.
Oh,
Myron Lawson.
Oh, Myron Lawson.
Good morning, Mr. Lawson.
good morning, everyone. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Lawson. If you would state your first name and repeat after me. I
I, Myron Lawson,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of this state,
of this state,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties
all the duties
incumbent on me
incumbent on me
as member
as a member
of the Board of Supervisors
of the Board of Supervisors
for Southern University,
for Southern University,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding,
and understanding.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations. And when we get through swearing in all of the new members, I'll recognize each one of you individually if you'd like to offer any comments. We'll go next now to Mr. Shorty.
Good morning. I state your first name, Mr. Shorty, and last.
I, Edwin Mark Shorty Jr.,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of this state,
of this state,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties
all of the duties
incumbent on me
incumbent on me
as member of the Board of Supervisors
as member of the Board of Supervisors
for Southern University,
for Southern University,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding,
and understanding.
so help me God.
So help me God.
All right, Mr. Amity.
Good morning. Please state your first and last name. I
You're still on mute, Mr. Amity. Can we unmute him from here? Okay. Jody, can you hear us?
Right, freshman in college. I got an alert the other day, this boy had been arrested in a shooting and 2 of the people died.
Somebody needs to mute their phone. Okay. While we're working on Mr. Amity, let's go to Mr. Reverend Talbot.
All right. Good morning,
Reverend
Mr.
Talbot, we're doing the swearing in.
Mr. Talbert, if you would state your first name, I, and last name. Mr. Talbert?
Reverend Talbot, will you unmute your phone, please? Okay, he's unmuted now. Can you hear us, Reverend Talbot?
I can now. I was having a little problem. Okay.
Okay, all right. Attorney DeQueer will facilitate your swearing in. Go ahead.
I've already been sworn in, but
All right, well, we will dispense with that. Thank you very much.
all right, thank you.
Mr. Amadi. All right, we're going to go, we'll proceed. We will maybe, you may have to step out and call him or talk to him.
Sure.
Try to figure this out. Okay. We'll now have the installation of the new officers.
Raise your right hand and state after me. I, state your first and last name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of this state, and I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform as chairman of the Board of Supervisors of Southern University, according to the best of my ability.
See, that's what's gonna happen.
Okay, Mr. Shorty.
All right, Mr. Shorty, this will be your oath for vice chair.
Yes, sir.
I state your first and last name,
I, Edwin Mark Shorty Jr.,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
Sure, I'll probably finish.
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of this state.
of this state.
I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent upon me
all of the duties incumbent upon me
as vice chairman
as Vice Chairman
of the Board of Supervisors
of the Board of Supervisors
for Southern University,
for Southern University,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding,
and understanding.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney DeQueer. And we will first recognize Vice Chair, Mr. Shorty, for any comments that he'd like to offer.
I'll be very brief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Happy New Year to all you board members. It is an honor to serve with you. I look forward to this year, hopefully under better circumstances, hopefully to see each other after we are all vaccinated and can be protected. Obviously, by the scruffiness of myself, I'm terrified to go to the barber, so I'm hiding out in my bunker. But I do look forward to seeing you all in person again. And if there's anything that I can help anybody with, my door is open. Please don't hesitate to give me a holler. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shorty, and I believe everyone shares your sentiment. Now we will go to recognize our new members. Our first new member is Miss Christy Oliver Reeves. We're so very happy to have her. And, you know, a board is supposed to have a diverse collection of individuals who bring a unique background of experiences to their service, but also resources. And she's highly placed at auction, and I've been working on her for some secret vaccine for the board. But we're so very happy to have her, and I'd like to recognize her at this time to offer any comments that she might have.
Well, good morning. I'm super excited to be here. I am eager to help and be of service however I can. And I am working on getting all of your names on our secret vaccine list.
Good deal. Right. Thank you very much. Looking forward to working with you. Now, Mr. Myron K. Lawson Sr., who is no stranger, who served many years on this board and is a former distinguished chairman of the board. So very happy to have him back, and we recognize him to offer any comments that he might have. Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the vice chair and my distinguished new colleague, I'm gonna be very short and just say I'm grateful for God giving me the opportunity to serve and the governor appointing me, and certainly I intend to give all that I have and also learn from this new body. And I always pray that my decisions are student driven, and I look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Look forward to working with you. And we have, in addition to Mr. Shorty, two returning members in the person of Mr. Amadi and Reverend Talbot. Mr. Amadi, can you hear us now?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm on my cell phone. For some reason, the computer's not working. I apologize, but I'm here.
I understand. So we'll kill two birds with one stone. Mr. DeQueer will facilitate your swearing in right now. And
Okay.
then we will allow you to offer any comments that you might have as a returning member.
All right.
Does this mic work right here or?
I'm having trouble.
All right, good morning, Mr. Amity. Please
Good morning.
State your first and last name. I.
Hold on one second. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get it working on my computer. Okay, I'm ready.
All right. State your first and last name. I
Jody Amadei,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of this state,
and the Constitution and laws of this state,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
all
the duties incumbent on me
upon me
as a member of the Board of Supervisors for Southern University, according to the best of my ability and understanding, so help me God.
So help me God.
You know what? There's one additional returning member, and that's Dr. Whitfield. We need to get him sworn in also. Dr. Whitfield, are you on?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay. All right.
Good morning, Dr. Whitfield.
Good morning.
See how this goes. I, and state your first name.
I, Ronnie.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the constitutional laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the constitutional laws
of this state,
and
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as member of Board of Supervisors for Southern University, according to the best of my ability and understanding, so help me God.
All right, thank you. I think that covers everybody. Typically, we do this all at once because they'd be here and we'd be able to do it together. We'll go back to Mr. Amity as a returning member, followed by Dr. Talbert and Dr. Whitfield to offer any comments that you might have if you like.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hadn't been on this board long, but I have expressed my pleasure, and I've just been very impressed with the way everything runs from the board to the university. And I just want to do whatever little part I can do to help make it better. I think everything can always be better. And I think that as a whole, the entire system is on the right track. And as I said, I hadn't been on the board long, but I've always followed Southern because I always kind of was interested in it since I was there in the 90s. But I think it's in better shape right now than it's been in a long time. And that's a credit to all the leaders that we have. So I just look forward to making it even better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Talbot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to say that I am grateful to have the opportunity to continue to serve with all of you to serve the Southern University system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Whitfield.
Yes, to the board members, my family, friends, and especially you, Des Moines. As you know, I truly wanted to be back on this board. They said the third time's a charm, but this time for me, it'll be the second time. Just very blessed and very honored to be a part. Plan on working hard, doing some great things at Southern Lab, and willing to help anywhere and everywhere I can with the board as we move forward to a great year. And thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you to we want to again welcome our new members, congratulate our returning members, congratulate our new Vice Chairman Shorty. Thank Dr. Talbot for his service as Vice Chair for the last 2 years. We look forward to a good year, all things considered. Dr. Belton, roll call.
Good morning. And if you will, to the honorable members of this board, I'd like to just offer a statement of goodwill as we navigate this new year. Roll call. Attorney Rutledge.
Here.
Attorney Shorty.
Here.
Attorney Amity.
Here.
Ms. Bartholomew.
He's on.
Dr. Davis.
Present.
Mr. Fondell.
Here.
Mr. Garvey. Mr. Gilliam.
Here.
Mr. Hilliard.
Here.
Mr. Lawson.
Present.
Ms. Reeves.
Here.
Mrs. Smith.
Present.
Dr. Tarver. Dr. Whitfield.
Present.
Ms. Williams.
Present.
I'm present, Mr. President.
I have you.
I'm present too, Mr. Chair President.
I have recorded your presence. You have a quorum, sir.
We missed, we should have 16, huh?
That was 16.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, okay. Thank you, Dr. Belton. We go now to item 6, the adoption of the agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Offer.
It's been moved by Ms. Reeves and seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Is there any objection to the adoption of today's agenda? Any objection? Hearing none, the agenda stands adopted. Yes, let me revise that with the concurrence of the mover and seconder. Members, we're going to adopt today's agenda. However, we're going to delete item K, request approval of the revised policy on endowed faculty and chairs. If you read that policy, there are specific dollar amounts in there when there should have been percentages in there. And so it's been requested that staff be given an opportunity to make some revisions, and we'll take this up at next month's meeting. So Ms. Reeves and Mr. Bartholomew, do you concur with the adoption of the agenda minus item K? Okay.
I do.
Okay, so we will, is there any objection to the adoption of today's agenda minus item K? Any objection? Hearing none, the agenda stands adopted. Thank you. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Staff informs me there are no public comments. However, we will take them up at the time and the order in which we receive them. We'll go now to our action items. And members, as we've tried to do to sort of have an efficient meeting on these Zoom meetings, we will probably take some of the items up in Globo. However, for any items taken up in Globo, to the extent there is a presentation or questions by board members, we will entertain them in the order in which they are presented. So the chair will entertain a motion to adopt item A, request approval for the minutes of the November 21st, 2020 meeting of the board. Is there a motion?
Offer.
And of course, Ms. Taylor Jarrell is keeping minutes. And so we need to know who the mover and seconder of the motion is, such that the minutes can accurately reflect it. It sounded like Mr. Bartholomew moved. Who was the second?
Gillum.
Gillum. Mr. Bartholomew and Mr. Gillum. Is there any objection to the adoption of the November 21st minutes? Hearing none, the minutes stand approved. Okay, so members, we will take up items B through E. B through E. To the extent there are questions, concerns, or presentations, we will certainly entertain them in the order in which they are presented. B, request approval of an MOU between Southern University at New Orleans and the City of New Orleans to establish educational and workforce development opportunities. C, request approval of articulation and MOU between SUNO and California Community Colleges. D, request approval of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of New Orleans and SUNO, Wisner grant to establish the Center for Grief and Trauma Therapy. And E, request approval of an MOU between the Southern University Law Center and Education Farm to coordinate and design pathways for talent development and social justice reform. Dr. Ammons or Chancellor Pierre, is there anything you'd like to add in addition to the materials that were provided to support the agenda items?
Thank
Dr.
you,
Ammons first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity. However, there are no additional comments that I would like to make, but if there are any questions, I will respond to them.
Very good. Chancellor Pierre?
Good morning, members of the board. I don't have any more comments other than to answer any questions that may be raised as a result.
Members, any questions about items B, C, D, or E? Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve action items B through E.
Mr. Shorty has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Shorty, seconded by Mr. Bartholomew, that we approve items B, C, D, and E. Is there any objection? Any objection? Hearing none, those items stand approved. We go now through items F through I. F through I. F is request approval of an MOU between the Law Center, Pharaoh's Conclave LLC, and PCX Go Incorporated to afford the Law Center avenues and pipelines through its mixed reality virtual innovation and game and esports institute. Well, that's a mouthful. G, request approval of an agreement with the Susla and Governance Inc. to support grant development and access to financial opportunities. H, request approval to rename the Southern University at New Orleans School of Social Work to the Millie M. Charles School of Social Work. And I, request approval of distance education course attendance policy for Southern University at Shreveport. So we've got Chancellor Pierre, Dr. Ellis, and Dr. Ammons. We'll go with you first. Chancellor, anything else you'd like to add to these items?
No, sir, I wouldn't want to add anything else except to be able to answer any questions that might be raised by any member of the board.
Thank you. Dr. Ellis.
Good morning. At this time, unless board members have specific questions, there's nothing that I'd like to add.
All right. Dr. Ammons, I would like for you to say a word about the contribution that Dean Charles has made. I know you've had a real good backup material, but particularly for some of our new members who may not be familiar with her long history and association with the institution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dean Charles was the founding dean of the School of Social Work, and her contributions to the practice of social work will endure for generations to come. As you know, the relatively new social work building has been named in her honor, and the SUNO community, especially the members of the faculty of the School of Social Work and the general faculty of the university, feel so strongly about her contributions that they have requested. And I have submitted to the president and to you approval to name the school the Millie M. Charles School of Social Work. And again, I think it is well-deserved recognition for a beloved member of the SUNO and actually the state of Louisiana.
Pardon me, Dr. Ammons. I apologize for interrupting you, but members, please mute. If you're not talking, would you please mute your device? Thank you. My apologies, Dr. Ammons.
Thank you. This is certainly a befitting recognition. Dean Charles passed a few weeks ago at the age of 97, and I wholeheartedly support the request coming from the faculty of the school, the university, and the larger New Orleans community to name the school the Millie M. Charles School of Social Work.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ammons. Are there any questions, members, on item F, G, H, or I? Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Shorty.
I just had a short statement to echo what Dr. Ammons said. When I was a student at SUNO, I did my work study under Dean Charles. She mentored me. She also mentored my uncle, Vernon Shorty, who attended SUNO with his good buddy, who is now State Senator Joseph Bowie. And she was a powerhouse and a mentor to so many students who came through SUNO. She meant so much to so many of us, and she's a great loss to our community and to the SUNO family, and to our university as a whole. She was a wonderful lady and did tremendous things in our community, and this is a wonderful way to honor her as befitting such a pivotal person to our community.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shorty. Any other comments? Any questions, members?
I move approval.
All right. It's been moved by Dr. Davis and seconded by Mr. Shorty that we approve items F, G, H, and I. Are there any objections? Any objections? Hearing none, those items stand approved. Members, we will take up items J and L. However, I do know that Chancellor Pierre has a presentation on item L. J and L, request approval of revised class attendance and no-show policy for Southern University at Shreveport, and request approval to establish a distinguished jurist of law and justice professorship at the Law Center. First, Dr. Ellis, do you have any additional comments on item J?
Again, good morning. And unless board members have specific questions, I don't have any additional information to share.
Okay. And we're coming right back to you, Dr. Ellis, on item M, but now we will recognize Chancellor Pierre for item L.
Thank you, Chairman Rutledge. It is with great honor that I present to the board a request to approve a distinguished jurist of law and justice professorship. And specifically in making that request, we obviously all across this country, and it was shown again this week on Wednesday, the need to have voices of justice and the need to have voices of people who have courage to face injustice. And one very important voice in this is that of Judge Janice Clark, who's now retired. and has been a vital force in the state of Louisiana to create justice and opportunities for minority judges to be elected in the state of Louisiana. 35 years ago, she started a journey through litigation to make sure that African American attorneys would have a fair opportunity to be elected as district court judges and appellate court judges by using the Voting Rights Act of 1965 in the form that it was at that particular time. She also was able to get a core group of activists and lawyers, people like Ernest Johnson, for example, who was the lead attorney, and others, to file this lawsuit, which was a groundbreaking lawsuit. It took a lot of courage because there were threats that they would never have careers, that might lose their licenses for challenging the system. And despite having all of those threats, she took up the mantle and made herself the named plaintiff in that suit. And because of that courage and the strategy and the ability to have what I call intellectual acumen to be able to walk through that process, they were able to, after a few years, get a resolution such that the Voting Rights Act would be used in a way to afford African Americans an opportunity to be elected as judges. And today, Louisiana has the highest number of African American judges per capita, percentage-wise per capita in the US. And other states have been trying to mimic or model what Judge Clark and others did in the state of Louisiana. And I thought it was appropriate, given this year, that we recognize not only her accomplishment, but the work of individuals who want to be social advocates and who need to have role models teaching them how to be social advocates and to be transformational change agents. So that's why we are proud to make that request to establish that Distinguished Juris of Law and Justice Professorship and ask that Judge Janice Clark be named as the original, as the initial Distinguished Juris of Law and Justice Professor in that role, because we have significant work to do in our Lewis A. Berry Civil Rights and Justice Institute. Dr. Belton has been very, very supportive of being able to do some things and resources that will help us in this. And we're going to pursue other resources to help us to really make this institute a vibrant institute that will have a voice that will really be important in training that next generation of social justice advocates and champions.
Thank you, Chancellor Pierre. I thought I saw, Mr. Shorter, did you have your hand up for a question or comment?
No, sir.
Okay.
I have a comment, if I may, if it's appropriate.
Absolutely, Dr. Davis.
I just want to say I echo what the Chancellor has said, that Judge Clark is a good friend of mine. People may not know it, but we go back a long way. And I was one of the students out there marching way back in the day for the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. So I go back a long way. But fast forward, I'm in the city of Baker. Baker has no African-American elected official. And so we use the Voting Rights Act to divide the city into districts for the council and district for the school board. I led that effort, but my advisor was Judge Clark. And now the whole thing has come full circle. So she didn't just reach out for the judges in East Baton Rouge Parish. She also reached out to other communities. And so, Chancellor, that's one hire that I'm really going to echo for you. And I think that's a great hire and a great recognition for giving her the award.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Were there any other comments, members? Any other comments? Well, I want to join both Chancellor Pierre and Dr. Davis's remarks. You know, Maya Angelou famously wrote that that courage is the greatest of all the virtues, because without courage, you cannot practice the others consistently. Judge Clark is an exemplar of courage. Not only is she an exemplar of courage, but I believe that she is going to make an invaluable contribution to the Civil Rights Institute that we've got at the Law Center. I also want to congratulate Dr. Belton and specifically Chancellor Pierre for pulling this off. For having been a distinguished jurist for nearly 30 years, there were no shortage of suitors who were aggressively seeking her. But she made the decision that I never doubted that she would make, is to continue on a path to trying to be impactful, not only to the community in which she lives, but this country. And you only have to have been alive here for the last year or so and see some of the social justice challenges at play throughout this country. And I believe that the Law Center can have a role not only in this community, this state, but this nation, frankly, in trying to bring voice and reason to some of those challenges and bridge them, hopefully. So I support 100% the institution of this professorship, but more importantly, bestowing the honor upon Judge Clark of being its inaugural recipient. So it's been moved by Dr. Davis and seconded by Mr. Shorty that we approve items J and L. Is there any objection? Any objection? Hearing none, the items stand approved. Now we go to item M, request approval of the Sustler Market Study salary adjustments. Dr. Ellis.
Good morning again. On at the last board meeting, Sustler presented a request to begin some market-based adjustments. We've been looking at salaries over the past year and more intensely the past 3 to 6 months. What you have here is adjustments in phase 1 of a phase 3 plan for faculty and staff whose adjustments will result in increases that are over 60,000, and faculty whose increase results in salaries that are above 75,000. I would like to note, however, that item 5, Leslie McClellan, that is not just a market adjustment. She is actually assuming responsibilities for a department that we are division that we're eliminating. I presented that last meeting as well as a result of the retirement of a vice chancellor, and that we will not be replacing that position. So that's what you have here.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Any questions, members? Any questions on any of the items in item M?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gillum.
Look, a further point of clarification on the market salary adjustments that Chancellor Ellis just spoke about. And it infers to me, it says market salary adjustments. That infers to me that they're comparable to something else. Now, let me first of all say, all of these people are meritorious and quite worthy of the recommendations that Dr. Ellis is making. In fact, I know all of them personally and professionally. My concern is this: in the past, when we say market adjustments, we usually like, at least at the administrative and board level, to see compared to what else. In other words, if they're comparable, we're trying to go to the market. We're trying to make them viable in the market. What are they comparable to in terms of what's at the other comparable institutions, in terms of salaries or comparable positions? I don't see that. I just see just salaries here. In other words, what is this? What does a comparable position say for the first one? Let's say Director of Outcomes and Assessment, Quality Management. What's comparable with that at, say, GSU or ULM or whatever have you? That's usually what I think of in terms of getting a good rationale for a market adjustment. Now, the other and second thing is, whenever I look, we did salary adjustments, I believe, too, for most of our campuses. I think Baton Rouge and Shreveport at our last board meeting. I went and I looked down of the 250 pages of packets we have, Mr. Chairman. You have to dig kind of far down in there. We have to go down to page 243 to look at the general operating budget financial statements. And on all of our campuses, with the exception of the Law Center and the Ag Center, all of these campuses are projecting revenue shortfalls. In fact, well, the one in Baton Rouge is not so noticeable, but the one in Shreveport and New Orleans, for instance, the projected budget shortfall in Shreveport looks like it's going to be 1.8 million. Now, Mr. McClinton, rather, is sitting out there in the audience. I see him at the table. Between him and Dr. Ellis, it would behoove me that there would be some kind of clarification in terms of if we're going to keep making these expenditures, how is that going to impact our bottom line? I note in the New Orleans, well, let's not even deal with the New Orleans. I don't think they have any PAFs. That's my concern. And I'd like for both of those questions or concerns to be addressed by possibly Chancellor Ellis and possibly Mr. McClinton.
Yes, sir. We'll ask Dr. Ellis to address them first and then Mr. McClinton.
Yes, thank you. So the first question about the comparisons, as I mentioned, the market-based adjustments is a three-phase approach. And so in the three-phase approach, we're looking at a 3-year period to try to get people to the minimum range of where they are. So a number of these adjustments may not get their person to actually where they are, where they need to be, but it's a step in the right direction, which we hope to complete over the next 3 years. Secondly, relative to the shortfall, I will again say it's a budget shortfall. It's on paper. There are revenue that we typically conservatively allocate or budget. For instance, we're able to take care of the market-based adjustments simply from savings that we have in unfilled positions. We have nearly $400,000 projected in unfilled positions. Additionally, we have made several expenditure cuts. As I mentioned earlier, the Vice Chancellor of Research Sponsored Programs is retiring. I'm not replacing that position. There are several other positions at an administrative level that we have consolidated to save money, 2 of which were presented at the last board meeting. We've renegotiated contracts. We had a lease at the airport that we were able to save about 40% moving forward. Additionally, as I first mentioned when the question about the budget shortfall came up, is that when we got the CARES Act, we budgeted about $2.2 million simply from that to be able to cover our operating budget. There are a number of things resulting from CARES Act that will benefit us as well. We should save about $800,000 because of the HBCU capital financing plan, where we're not currently having to repay that loan will actually, from this last CARES Act, I believe those loans were actually forgiven. And so for in the future, we won't have to pay that loan back. We have about 800,000 in prior year funds from a specific fund that we're using to pay down debt that is available if needed. But given everything that we're doing to allocate the resources that we do have and to, I guess, cut expenses, I predict that we'll probably be able to move forward, hopefully, with a budget surplus at the end of the year. So with that said, I was very comfortable in trying to reward our employees for the hard work that they do on a daily basis. As you see, we have deans making under $80,000. SUSLA is, our employees work hard for pay that is maybe probably not comparable to some of the other institutions surrounding them, but we're trying to utilize our resources to ensure that we can reward them for the work that they do.
Okay, Mr. McClinton, do you have anything you'd like to add today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have reviewed the budget first report. And as if you recall the last meeting, the meeting before, one of the concerns on the Shreveport campus is the shortfall in revenue, like Mr. Gilliam said. And if you notice it, I mean, you don't have it in front of you, and I'll talk about it later. They do have a shortfall for the fall in revenue based on the reports that I'll be presenting, about 426,000. They're also projecting a shortfall in the spring, but that's included in their projections. As Dr. Ellis said, that they have set aside about 2.2 million. My report shows $2.6 million in CARES Act dollars that will need to be used in order to balance this fiscal year. So having those dollars set aside, it's my understanding from talking to his CFO, they also have made the projection, as Dr. Ellis said, in the budget with vacant positions. The concern I would have is that with the CARES Act dollars, that he does have those set aside, but we do need to be concerned about going forward once the CARES Act dollars are not available. So he would really have to make some adjustments the way he said in order to make certain that we balance the budget at the end of the fiscal year and going forward.
Yeah, come back.
Yes, sir. After Mr. Gillum, Mr. Garvin, Mr. Lawson, you had?
Yes, I have a question.
I'll come back to you after Mr. Garvin. Mr. Gillum?
I'll defer to Mr. Lawson.
Well, Mr. Garvey is next. Mr. Garvey?
Yes. Hi. Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Chancellor Ellis, I'm very concerned from what I'm hearing, and I just need you to explain to me in regards to, you're saying that you have a capital of 400,000 in unfilled positions that you will start allocating for some of your employees, the list of members that you have for an increase of salary. And so my concern is how are you going to balance with the needs of those unfilled positions as you start to pay the list of members here in the increase of salaries? Because then it's a disservice to the students if you have adequate funds or adequate people that need to be addressed in those unfilled positions. Then it'll bring you back down to the same position that you're in now, underfunding people to get in your job at your institution. And so what are your, I guess my question to you would be, what are your solutions or plans to offset that?
So I would say the first thing is the value of the unfilled positions is much greater than the value to make the market-based adjustment. So they're not equal. There's a surplus there. Secondly, a number of the positions that I am talking about have been eliminated. So I just mentioned Vice Chancellor position that was eliminated. There's been director level positions, at least 2 director level positions eliminated. And so through consolidation, we've been able to save those dollars. Secondly, again, I mentioned the CARES Act dollars, but I've mentioned several other pockets of dollars that we have in reserve that can accommodate it. Now, part of the issue in moving forward is enrollment, like a number of 2-year institutions across the state with the COVID pandemic, enrollment dropped significantly with some of the changes in admissions criteria with the Board of Regents that also impacted. But this coming semester, we see an increase in uptick in applications. We believe that the record enrollment that we saw last year when we didn't have the pandemic, we can come back from this year. So in addition, as I've said, the expenditure cuts that we've made that will allow us to not only get through this semester, but move forward through next academic year.
Thank you. So if I'm understanding you, you're going to consolidate. So some of the members that you have actually doing pay increase during those consolidations, they're transitioning to other leadership roles so that you can conserve money and move forward with running the institution.
Yeah, so in addition to elimination of positions, let's just say we budgeted for a position and that position has gone unfilled for half a year. We then can use that money that's in the budget as an expense now and reallocate that money. Or if a position that we budgeted this entire year is in the budget, but we'll no longer have that position next year because of consolidation, then we can not only use that money for this year, but moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yes, my only worry is that when you do actually fill that position, what happens then? So again, for the former example that you gave, you say, for instance, you have a director position for finance. And for that finance, 6 months have already gone and you allocate to pay that finance person $60,000. So that means you have a capital or expense of $30,000 that you can spend this year, right? But let's say next fiscal year that you have found some money that adequately fit that position. But then now we translated that position or those funds, then you really no longer have those funds again and $30,000 in excess. And so if you don't have those funds in $30,000 excess because now you filled that position, what are you going to do in regards to that budget that you're requesting? Now, I'm not here to try to argue that people don't need to get paid. I think people should be paid at the adequate and the market fair value of the area that they live in and for the work that they do. I'm just concerned on how the budgeting I'm not really seeing that at this moment. And that's what I'm trying to understand. But I see that you're trying to do some great things consolidation wise. But I would like to see the positions that you're still going to remain unfilled. If you can provide that for me short after this board meeting.
So I think the best way to explain it is, so let's just say we have $400,000 in savings from unfilled positions. I only need $200,000 to make these adjustments. So I still have a surplus of $200,000. So moving forward, even if I fill some of the positions, I still have that surplus. And then the fact that I'm not going to fill some of the positions, then that surplus will that $200,000 surplus will accommodate those positions that I don't fill. So I'm not using all of the money that's allocated for that has not been utilized, that has been set aside because the positions are unfilled. Only part of it.
Did that complete your questions, Mr. Garvey? Okay, all right. We'll go now to Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chancellor, my question is, of course, the CARES Act money, it's a blessing, but I guess it can come back to haunt us if we're using it to patch, because it's really a temporary solution to a permanent problem with us. Again, my concern is that, and you tapped around addressing it, is that we've not used the CARES Act money to justify the ability to accommodate these adjustments, firstly. Secondly, I'd like to see the comps that were used. Was it the SREB or was it Cooper average? Or I didn't see it through the package, and I apologize if it's in there because I'm kind of catching up a little bit. So I'd like to know the comps that were used, and I also like to know if this will be capable of being done had the CARES Act money not been there.
Dr. Ellis?
So the question had we not had the CARES Act dollars, I definitely believe we could because of other savings. I think the other question has to do with the comparisons. We can provide those comparisons. We have used several sources. Salary.com is one, SREB, higheredjobs.com. But I will be mindful in saying that some folks, this is a 3-year process. And so if people got adjustments, everybody may not have moved to that ideal salary. They may have just moved up toward that salary, but not to that ideal salary, because we have made a conscious effort because of resources to try to do it over a 3-year period and not try to do it all at one time.
One follow-up, if you will. Is this list inclusive of everyone that's not in line with their peers or the average of their peers?
No, because we have to only submit to the board those individuals that I think faculty over 75,000 and employees, staff that are over 60,000. It only represents those individuals.
The ones that don't meet their criteria, I guess is what I'm asking. Are they being adjusted likewise?
Everybody is being adjusted individually. And so because the reason we did the market-based adjustments, we didn't want to just do a blanket 3% because for those folks that are far away from that market-based average, it doesn't really help. So individuals based on their current position, the number of years they've been at SUSLA, and some other factors, we've made adjustments that typically range from 2 to 8% in this first phase. And we want to continue to do that in a phase 2 and a phase 3. But if there are faculty members that are below 75,000 and employees, staff that are below 60,000, they aren't on this list, but they will get adjustments on February 1st.
Did that complete your questions, Mr. Lawson?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, members, are there any other questions?
Can you come back to me, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely, Mr. Gillum. Mr. Gillum, before we come back to you, may I ask a question of Mr. McClinton? Mr. McClinton, at the time back in whenever it was, back this fall, which campuses provided the across the board 3%? The Law Center, the Baton Rouge campus?
Right, it was the Law Center and the Baton Rouge campus.
Okay. And what's your other?
And then, and the boarding system also.
Right.
Then
Now,
the latest one.
But Suno did as well.
Well, what I'm saying is that the last board meeting, the board meeting where we approved the pay increases, it was Suno, Baton Rouge, Law Center, and board.
Okay.
I would suggest that Dr. Ellis consider resubmitting these recommendations at the next board meeting, having provided the additional documentation that has been requested of members of the board.
All right, members, is there any objection to that? Is there any objection to that? Okay, so what the chair will do is I will entertain a motion made by Mr. Gillum and seconded by Mr. Lawson that we would postpone consideration of this item to a date certain, being the February board meeting, during which time Dr. Ellis will provide the information that is responsive to the inquiries that have been made by members regarding the item.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
One comment, if I may.
Yes, sir, Dr. Davis.
Yeah, I suggest that when Dr. Ellis does the additional analysis and provide the data, that he make it retroactive to the initial beginning date so that the employees won't lose any of the income.
I agree 100%. Okay. Mr. Gillum and Lawson, are you okay with that motion?
I so move with your recommendation, Mr. Chair.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. The motion has been stated. Is there any objection? Is there any objection? So hearing none, we will entertain item M at next month's meeting. All right, we go now to item N. Dr. Belton.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you have before you 9 personal actions that have been advanced by the Southern University Law Center, the Southern University Foundation, the Shreveport campus, and the Southern University Agriculture and Extension Center. We ask your favorable consideration.
I would say, I hope members had an opportunity to read the supporting documentation from the foundation and the return on investment that we are receiving. Since I've been on this board, I have been pushing for us to increase our investment in the work of the foundation. I believe, according to the data, we're receiving north of a 2,000% return on the investment that we make. And I ask Mr. Harrell all the time, if you had more bodies, if you had more people, do you think you would increase your bottom line? And he says, I absolutely will. The foundation is doing some outstanding work over there.
Yeah.
And this institution is the direct beneficiary of it. Not only the Baton Rouge campus, but throughout. They've got a system-wide impact. The financial statements are available online, very clean, outstanding audits. And I believe that and as I've said to Dr. Belton, I think we've got to think strategically about making certain that we continue to robustly invest in those areas where we're seeing and receiving significant returns. I guess y'all know how I feel about those items. Any questions about any of the items listed in item N? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Offer.
It's been moved by Ms. Reeves and seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Any objection? Hearing none, the item stands approved. Okay, I believe I saw the athletic director on the line. We don't get a chance to hear from him very much. I know our athletics chair, Mr. Bartholomew, has had some conversations with Mr. Banks about the recommendation. We're going to take up items O, P, and Q. O, P, and Q. O is request consideration of a one-year contract extension for the following head coaches. Head football coach Dawson Odoms, head men's basketball coach Sean Woods, and the head women's please mute your phones, mute your device, please.
Yes.
Head women's basketball coach Carlos Funches. P, request approval of one-year salary stipend adjustments for additional work under grants for Marla Dickerson, Cynthia Reed, and Charlotta Fortson of the Law Center. And Q, a request approval for family medical leave from an employee at the Shreveport campus. Mr. Athletic Director, any observations, any comments you'd like to offer on item O?
No, sir. Very brief. Good morning to all. Basically, we just want to follow the scenario of the NCAA that's because of seasons not being played because of COVID. It's really the COVID cause that the coaches did not get a fair opportunity to exercise their right to put their teams out on the field because of the pandemic. And so we feel like we want to follow the same process of the NCAA and just give those guys that added season that they did not get a chance to participate or was limited to their contract. There are no other adjustments, no salaries, no other benefits to the contract. Is just adding them another year that they lost due to the pandemic.
Yes, sir. Any questions, members? Any questions? Any comments?
Just one kind of facetious comment.
Dr.
Davis. Is prime time having any impact on us?
Prime time.
He's all over the television. He's stealing a lot of airtime, and you can expect to do it.
Yeah, you can win the press conference, but you got to win the war. So we are very excited about what we have coming for us at for Southern University as it relates to football season. We are very excited.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Davis. Any other comments? Any other questions? Dr. Davis, will you move on items O,
So
P,
moved.
and Q? Is there a second? It's been seconded by Mr. Garvey. Any objection? Any objection? Hearing none, those items stand approved. We're moving right along. All right, we will go now to item R, the request consideration of approval of a recommendation to appoint the Chancellor of the Southern University at New Orleans. Before I turn it over to Dr. Belton, I do have some public comments that I will read on those items, and they are all from Mr. Mustafa Elisar, who is in the Department of Natural Sciences at Southern University at New Orleans. First comment, I would like the board to consider candidate experience and the familiarity with the situation at SUNO in their selection of our new chancellor. The last thing we need is a chancellor who will learn on the job and create more problems at SUNO. We just got out of a financial probation with the effort of Dr. Ammons and his team. Next comment. COVID-19 exposed the lack of technology support. Moodle and Banner are not working as they should. Faculty are this is also from Mr. Mustafa Elisar, Southern University at New Orleans. Faculty are complaining, but the tech support not responding to faculty concerns at SUBR in parentheses. We need the board to form a committee to investigate these issues. The final comment from Mr. Mustafa Elisar at Southern University of New Orleans. The salary market adjustment should be to all faculty and staff system-wide. We have full professor faculty receiving assistant professor salaries. All right, were there any other comments? Any other comments? None. Okay, Dr. Belton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I come before you this morning asking your favorable consideration to appoint the Chancellor of Southern University at New Orleans. As you may recall, a couple of months ago, I asked this board for their consideration in authorizing the administration to advance a focused search. I should say to you that in keeping with our discussion at that time and subsequent to that meeting, we elected to go forth advancing a full search for this position. And in so doing so, we attracted as many as 52 candidates who indicated their interest in applying for this position. In addition, whereas we had originally spoke to the senior leadership team facilitating this search, we conversely identified 9 stakeholders from the Southern University New Orleans community to facilitate it. And I might add, they did an outstanding job. With your permission, I'd like to name those individuals who engaged in that diligence, starting with General Russell Honore, who co-chaired the committee, along with Dr. Qatar Williams, Attorney Kenya Smith, Ms. Lisa Manning Ambrose, Mr. Jamar Williams, who serves as the SGA president at Southern University, New Orleans, Ms. Cynthia Ramirez, the president of the Faculty Senate at SUNO, Mr. Edgar Blanchard, Mrs. Shawn Charles, Ms. Tiara Conant, Dr. Corinne Sanders. And of course, they were provided independence as they engaged in their diligence and were voting members only. They obviously were supported by the staff, Dr. Williams, Mr. McClinton, Dr. Merritt, Dr. Penning, Dr. Monaghan, Attorney Blosh, and Attorney Woods. In light of the 53 candidates, I would submit that they did a yeoman's job in narrowing that search from 53 to 15 to 8. At the time when they considered the semifinalists or 5 candidates, they literally invited those candidates to the SUNO campus to engage in in-person interviews. They did so by as well providing for the community inputs by way of Zoom, where the community itself was afforded the opportunity to ask questions of those candidates. Thereafter, they submitted 3 names to me, unranked. Those 3 candidates, who were exceptional, I might add, were interviewed by the senior leadership team, and subsequently, I personally interviewed each one of those candidates. And in so doing, I was literally privileged to come to know colleagues in higher education who have distinguished themselves by records of accomplishment. And as well was afforded the opportunity to identify what I ultimately concluded was someone who would represent the best fit for Southern University at this time. And the person to which I think aligns with that assessment is Dr. James Ammons, who has been serving as the interim chancellor of Southern University, New Orleans. I wanted to say to you that in the staff provided for all the members of the board, again, Dr. Ammons, Vita, the job description for the chancellor's role, and the proposed contract to which we would like for you to favorably consider. And as you peruse that, I think you will find someone who rightfully has spent his entire career in higher education and had the opportunity to lead 2 other HBCUs as its president. He has worked tirelessly here in Baton Rouge, serving as the executive vice president for academic affairs and executive vice chancellor. And again, our community has benefited from his leadership. I think as I reviewed and the observations of the advisory council, it was evident that the committee felt that Dr. Ammons, in keeping with his tenure on the Southern University New Orleans campus, that he could literally hit the ground running, that he is aware of those challenges that the university must nevertheless navigate, but also opportunities that would enable the university to take next steps. I would defer, Mr. Chair, because I really wanted to, again, say how much I appreciate the advisory committee in their work. As you know, they worked during the holidays facilitating this special work. And I wanted to publicly acknowledge General Honore for his exceptional leadership in guiding the advisory committee. I was wondering if he would be so kind, and I invited him if he would be so kind as to just offer a few comments on behalf of the advisory council. Dr. General Honore.
Thank you, Dr. Belton, esteemed members of the board. And may I give compliments to the chairman. I wish I could do parliamentary procedure that way. I'm impressed. I want to thank the members of the Southern University staff for all the assistance, and my fellow select members who came focused, worked in a COVID compliant way, and accomplished this task. Very impressed with the finalists. Many of them came in and they all gave presentations that the board might want to take a look at. They gave those PhDs came in ready to try to get this job, and it speaks to the honor that Southern University system has. I'm here because of Southern University and a class of 71, and it made me proud. And if I may take liberty also on the public comment for a minute, on the 19th, Dr. Belton and his staff will host the TRADOC Command, the 4-star general and the head of Army Recruiting Command. They're coming to Southern University to have a meeting on diversity and inclusion for the Army, which is a big topic now. And I'm sure this will be just the beginning of a long relationship between Southern University through its ROTC program, but the things that Southern can add to the Army's learning on diversity and inclusion. And I apologize for taking that point of privilege for adding that information, because I'm not sure if the president had a chance to tell you, but this is going to be a big deal for the Army to be able to do that on the bluff at the Wade House. Thank you very much, Dr. Belton. And thanks to all entire team. Special thanks to the Chief of Staff, Dr. William, her superb job of holding our hands through this. Thank you very much. And congratulations, Dr. Amos.
Well, again, thank you, General Honore. You served us well. And Mr. Chair, having shared that overview for you, at this time, I formally submit my recommendation to appoint Dr. James Ammons as the next chancellor for Southern University at New Orleans.
Thank you, Dr. Belton. Thank you, General Honore, for giving leadership to the search committee, Dr. Williams and Ms. Taylor Jarrell, who also burned up the highway going back and forward.
The recommendation is before you, members. What is your pleasure? Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved by Dr. Tarver. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Gillum. Is there any objection to the approval of the appointment and supporting contract? Is there any objection?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr. Shorty?
I do want to address a couple of things before we finalize this. To speak on the motions before we vote on it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Two issues, and neither one of the issues that I bring up should reflect negatively on Dr. Ammons. There are issues that I just noticed that I wanted to bring forward that I had a bit of a concern about. One is process. For those of you who have more institutional knowledge than I do, you may be able to illuminate some issues for me relative to process. But it seems to me that the way that we do this, I find a little flawed in that Dr. Ammons has risen to the top based on this process. And this is the process that we have. And I am fine with that. I want to say that I'm okay with that. But in the future, I wonder if it would behoove us to look at the way we are doing the selections, because from what I've seen, we do a questionnaire that asks certain questions that grades folks. And the people who rise to the level and get the top grades are the ones that the president then recommends, which to me kind of negates the point of having a committee, because the committee can't really do anything because you just graded somebody. And what is the point of the committee other than to shuffle the paper? The questions, I understand, have been used before, which is fine, but just because you've been doing something before doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best way to do something, because we are asking very pointed questions that only people with a certain background would be able to show and get to the top of the paradigm that we've put forth. As I told the president, I said, let's say hypothetically a Barack Obama approached us about being head of a part of the system. Well, he wouldn't score highly on the questionnaire that we have. He wouldn't have been in higher education. He wouldn't have dealt with accreditation issues. So I don't know if we hamstring ourselves by having such a rigid process that can exclude people who may be qualified or who may be great fits for our institution. That has nothing to do with Dr. Ammons. It has more to do with the process and how we're doing. And I think that as a board, that may be something that we want to look at in the future. The second issue that I've got is, and again, for those with more institutional knowledge, that we may have other chancellors that are doing this, but relative to a chancellor who is going to hold multiple positions, my concern is what I want for Suno is a full-time chancellor, not someone who is going to keep administrative duties in Baton Rouge and head the university in New Orleans. I don't necessarily have a question about Dr. Ammons' ability to juggle those jobs, because I think he's a very competent individual who, he's one of those folks, if you say, well, if it can be done, he's the guy who can probably do that. But you do run into an issue of timeliness. How much time do you really have to do this? How much time can he focus on the things that we need to focus on in New Orleans, the challenges that we've got in New Orleans, and still maintain some duties and obligations in Baton Rouge? And I don't know how much time out of his day or his week that takes, but I think it's something to be discussed, because everyone is always very vocal about the challenges that we've got in New Orleans. Well, we can't be vocal about the challenges that we've got in New Orleans and say, well, we've got all these things that we need to correct. And the guy who we got to correct them is going to spend some time in in Baton Rouge, dealing with issues that we've got in Baton Rouge. So again, that has nothing to do with Dr. Ammon's fitness to do the job. I think he can do the job as Chancellor at SUNO. I do wonder about these dual roles that I understand that he wants to take. And that gives me some concern. Mr. President, if you could address those, I would appreciate
it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Shorty. And as we as we discuss those matters, I too indicated that I certainly appreciated your perspective. And I would say to you on both of those matters that, this is a unique time. First and foremost, higher education has historically promoted from within. From within meaning from the cadre of colleagues who evolve within its ranks, within its community. Now, over the last few years, there's been some exceptions made of recruiting notable business leaders and candidates who have no history of ever working in higher education. But even now, that's an anomaly that institutions of higher education, particularly in keeping with the role of the president and or chancellor of an institution, typically hire individuals who have a record of accomplishment leading those institutions. And so I think your point is well taken, but I think in that light, I think we are compelled to give consideration to those type of appointments on a case-by-case basis. I will say to you that even if we had a notable personality who we would like to consider, if that person was made available in this search for the Chancellor of Southern University in New Orleans, and in light of some of the challenges that are ongoing at this institution, I would dare say that we would still try to identify someone who have the comparable experiences, the demonstrated expertise within the higher education community. So in the case of Southern University in New Orleans, even if we had a personality of the sort to which you describe, I think the university would be better served if we had someone who has worked within the higher education community in keeping with the challenges that we have at that institution right now, and how vulnerable it continues to be right now. And so we need someone to hit the ground running. I believe Dr. Hammonds is that person. And secondly, I think this system is unique. Southern University, the system, LSU is the other. And in fact, we have a number of individuals doing dual roles. I'm one of them. But in this particular case, and over the last year, Dr. Hammonds have in fact been working and have been performing exceptionally, having assumed both of those roles, where his primary responsibilities have been in providing leadership at Southern University, New Orleans. His role as executive his role as Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs is a coordinating role, whereas he worked with the other vice chancellors for academic affairs across the system in offering submittals and making sure that we could coordinate our efforts for the system. While that is an important role, to be certain, I think it's one that he has demonstrated he could balance while at Southern University New Orleans. And so, again, I do not want to suggest that your comments are right on point, because they are. I'm just speaking specifically about our where we are in the here and now, and the degree to which I think we need able leadership who brings continuity and who already has a record of accomplishment, where we are therefore confident that they could get the job done. And in stating that, I believe that that would be in the person of Dr. James Ammons.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, just 1 minute, just 1 second, Dr. Davis. Mr. Shorty, did that complete your comments?
Yes, sir, it did.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Davis.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, colleagues, I'd like to make a point, or make a statement rather, and this shouldn't reflect on Dr. Ammons or your decision at this time. But I like to bring to remind the board and the senior leadership that we should focus in the future on trying to get competent females. Now, I want to applaud the governor for adding 2 females, I believe, in the last year or so to our board. But we have 5 chancellors, and we have executive vice chancellor, executive vice president, and neither one of those is a female. So I just like to see us, and then I looked at the applications of the top 5, and it may have been that female, and I don't want to say that, but I wouldn't have selected her over any of the others. Let's put it like that. She was competent, but I wouldn't say that she stood out over the 4 male candidates. I put it like that, from my view, my narrow view. But I just like to see us in the future, and maybe our 3 females, and I'm not trying to pull them out, but point them out, but on our board we have 3 now. That we in the future, when we get high level positions, and Dr. Belzer can do some of this on his own. Look at female candidates. Well, maybe we have to go out of our way to do that at some point. I'm not saying now, but I think we should keep in mind the Title IX conditions and so on. Thank you very much, and I don't want that to impact the current decision.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Davis. Any other comments or questions? Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Dr. Belton will take a roll call vote on this item.
Roll call vote. Attorney Rutledge?
Yes.
Attorney Shorty?
Yes.
Attorney Amini?
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Fondell?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Reeves?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Tarver?
Yes.
Dr. Whitfield? Dr. Whitfield?
You must be working with a patient. Dr.
All right.
Whitfield, are you there? Okay, we go, keep going.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
motion passes.
All righty. Well, we want to thank you, members, and congratulate Dr. Ammons. And at this time, we will recognize Dr. Ammons for any comments he'd like to offer.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I noticed during the roll call for attendance, and then again, my name was not called.
It
I didn't get
wasn't?
a chance. No, it wasn't called during the roll call. It was just Dr. Tarver. Maybe he's two people now, but I didn't get.
And I marked 15 people. I don't know how we missed that.
If
Well,
you
we
mark 15, we got 16 on the board.
Yeah, I know. And it was only Dr. Whitfield that I didn't mark. We apologize. We'll go back to you.
Okay, but I just want to vote yes.
Okay. All right. Apparently they left you off the list. We'll get that straight. Okay, no problem. Please make certain that the record accurately reflects that not only is Dr. Talbot here, but he voted affirmative. All right. Okay, Dr. Ammons.
Our apologies, Reverend Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But before I go into my remarks, I want to welcome the new and returning members to the Board of Supervisors and extend my congratulations to our new officers. But on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank you, Chairman Rutledge, Vice Chair Shorty, members of the Board of Supervisors, and especially President Belton, for the confidence that you have in me and opportunity to serve as Chancellor of Southern University at New Orleans. I also want to thank General Honore, Dr. Williams, and members of the Advisory Committee for your work and your commitment to the search process. I can assure members of the board that it was a rigorous process. I don't know about the other candidates, but I did not skate through. I had tough questions and tough issues that I had to address, and I want to thank them for their work. But after serving as interim chancellor for the past year, I have been able to see firsthand how beloved this institution is in the New Orleans community. I also see the potential for a strong and vibrant SUNO that will continue to be viewed as a trusted voice and a valued asset for New Orleans, the state of Louisiana, and beyond. And now having the opportunity to lead this university through the next phase of its growth and development is truly exciting. Relying on my vast leadership experience in higher education and the relationships that we have been able to develop here at SUNO, I believe that we will be able to continue to implement the right plans, systems, and programs that will sustain the momentum that has been building over the last year. I also want to thank the administrative team, the faculty, staff, students, alumni, the Southern University system, the state of Louisiana, and the general New Orleans community for coming together in support of the university and the furtherance of its mission. Through these collective efforts, the university was removed from Psych COC probation and is now well positioned as we prepare for our 10-year reaffirmation visit in April. But moreover, I am convinced that SUNO is now ready to become a leading urban university and a laboratory to find solutions to problems and challenges that confront the New Orleans community, as well as major urban centers across this country. And again, I believe that with our collective continued commitment, this vision will become a reality. Again, thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to serving in this capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ammons. We'll go now to item S, our resolutions. Dr. Williams.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Happy New Year to everyone. Our December 2020 resolutions and commendations are as follows. Mr. Roosevelt Delano Steptoe family, Mr. Roosevelt Steptoe, or Dr. Roosevelt Steptoe rather, began his college teaching career in the fall semester of 1967 at Southern University, Baton Rouge campus. He was later appointed Director of Economic and Transportation Research and was appointed Chancellor of the Southern University, Baton Rouge campus by the Board of Supervisors in 1975. He passed away on November 20th, 2020. Our condolences also to the Miss Millie Ruth McClellan Charles family. Dr. Millie Charles started a social work program within the sociology department, which became the School of Social Work, offering baccalaureate and master's degrees. A $1 million endowment chair was awarded at Southern University in New Orleans in her name, entitled the Millie M. Charles Endowed Chair of Human Rights and Social Work. As of today, a new building has also been named in her honor. She passed away on November 20th, 2020, and will always be remembered. Our condolences to the Reverend Ronnie Woods family. Reverend Woods was the father of Dr. Renita Woods Marshall, who serves as the Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Support at Southern University Ag Center and Associate Dean for the College of Ag. He passed away on November 26, 2020. Our condolences also to the Rosa Polk family. Miss Rosa Polk earned her BS in elementary education from Southern University Baton Rouge in 1954. She went on to earn a master's degree and plus 30 in elementary education and an additional 15 hours in library science from Southern University. She passed away on December 3rd, 2020. Our condolences are also extended to the Alice Fields Thomas family. Miss Alice Fields Thomas was an extraordinary, generous, and gracious woman of God. Her infectious smile, words of wisdom, profound strength, and enduring love will be missed by all who knew her. She was the mother of Senator Cleo Fields and Judge Wilson Fields and the Fields brothers and sisters. She passed away on December 9, 2020. Our deepest condolences to Dr. William E. Moore family. He was a longtime Southern University Baton Rouge faculty member and administrator who gave selflessly to Southern University for more than 3 decades. Dr. Moore served as Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. His impact was very strong on the Southern University campus and beyond, and will be evident for years to come. We will keep in our prayers the Dr. William E. Moore family, and Dr. Moore passed away on December 10, 2020. Our condolences are also extended to Miss Darlene Williams, the family of Miss Darlene Williams. Miss Darlene Matthews. Miss Matthews was the wife of Southern University alum and Southern Foundation board member Irvin Matthews. Darlene and Irvin's impact have had major impact on this entire Southern University system. And we remember today Darlene's passion for education and generosity to our Southern students, our faculty, and our programs. She passed away on December 18th, 2020. Our condolences also to Senator Joel Neal's family. Senator Joel Neal was Nevada's first African-American state senator who served nearly 3 decades in the legislative chamber and championed the underserving and working class. He was a Southern University alumnus, and he passed away on December 31st, 2020. Commendations are also extended to the Southern University system extends our commendations to Attorney Tony Clayton, who is the new district attorney for the 18th JDC. District Attorney Tony Clayton is an alumnus of Southern University of Baton Rouge and Southern University Law Center and a former board chairman. He is also one of the few African-American district attorneys here in the state of Louisiana. As everyone knows, he's a huge supporter of Southern athletics and was sworn in on yesterday, and we certainly extend our congratulations to District Attorney Tony Clayton. The Southern University system would also like to commend State Representative Edward Ted James on his election as the 2021 chairman of the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus. Representative James is an alumnus of Southern Baton Rouge and Southern University Law Center, and we extend our congratulations to Chairman-elect. Finally, the Southern University system would like to commend State Senator Jimmy Harris on his outstanding service as chairman of the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus for 2020. We extend our sincerest appreciation for his service to the state of Louisiana and of course, the support of higher education. Mr. Chairman, do you have? And we definitely want to extend our congratulations to Dr. Barbara Carpenter, who is the new vice chair for the Black Caucus.
And I don't know if I may have missed it, but did we add Mrs. Attorney Blosh's to the list of condolences, Mother?
We did not. And of course, our sincerest condolences. We have not only said it, we have demonstrated our condolences to Attorney Blosh, whose mother passed during the month of December. Ms. Blosh, we keep you and the entire Blosh family in our prayers.
Members, were there any other condolences or commendations that you'd like to add to the list?
Yes, this is Talbot.
Yes, sir.
I don't have that. The congressman that passed away, Leflow, I believe it is.
Yeah, Luke Letlow.
Yeah. I think we need to send one to that family also.
Agreed. Any others, members? Okay, is there a motion to adopt the resolutions? It's been moved by Ms. Reeves and seconded by Dr. Talbot that we approve the commendations as well as condolences. Is there any objection? Hearing none, those stand adopted. I did, and I think I saw Dr. Talbot there attend Mr. Clayton's swearing in on yesterday. Had a really good crowd. It was outside, and Myron and Leon, I begged him to give me about 10 minutes to get out of town before he could exercise his new authority on me. So, yeah, so we congratulate Mr. Clayton. We'll go now to informational items. Number 9A, our finance update and interim financial reports. Mr. McClinton.
The financial reports are included in the packet, but a couple of items I would like to bring to your attention, and that is that the boarding system, the law center, and the ag center revenues either met or exceeded the budget for the period from July 1 to November 30th, and we are projecting that would be the same going forward. The actuals are included as of November 30th. The projected revenues are included through June 30th. The Baton Rouge campus, the revenue projection is basically about $2 million. There's a shortfall, and it's based on primarily based on tuition from the fall projecting for the spring. They have identified approximately $2.2 million of CARES Act dollars that will be used in order to balance their budget. The Suno campus also had a budget shortfall, and based on their budget shortfall, they were able to make adjustments in the expenditure category in order to project for a balanced budget as of June 30th. The Shreveport campus also experienced a revenue shortfall, and they're using CARES Act dollars also in order to balance their budget for the 2021 fiscal year. So as it stands right now, each campus, based on their CFO information, have made the necessary adjustments to end with a balanced budget. We will be watching these numbers as we move through the spring semester, and I will provide updates each month on that. Mr. Chairman, that's my report for today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McClinton. Members, any questions or comments regarding the interim financial report? Any questions? Hearing none, we'll go now to item B, the facilities planning project update. Is Mr. Guillory on? Mr. Guillory? I don't believe he's on. Dr. Belton, you have anything you'd like to add on this?
I think we submitted a report, Mr. Chairman, and with your indulgence, we would just refer the board to that report that was in your documentation.
Okay, all right. I will go down to item 10, our president's report. Dr. Belton.
Well, I think that our time has been well spent today, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I again would like to just wish you a happy new year and submit to you my great pleasure in having been afforded the opportunity to work with you in 2020. I further look forward to working with those members who were reappointed and the 2 new board members who will join us in advancing the goals of Southern University university system. From the standpoint of announcements, I would just say that, as you may well be aware, we are preparing to host our spring class this year. The administration on the Baton Rouge campus made the decision to require all residential students to be tested prior to moving into the dorms. We've had several conversations with the Board of Regents and with the administration, and there continues to be a considerable amount of encouragement to increase testing within our communities. And so we have, I believe, a inventory of both PCR tests and antigens, and we believe that we have a sufficient supply to begin routine testing throughout the spring. We are further acquiring additional PPE for our community and continuing to work with both the Student Health Center and Care South, who's providing services to the university, notwithstanding our ongoing relationship with Ochsner healthcare system. And so we will continue to keep you updated as we proceed in ensuring that students are afforded a quality experience as they matriculate at our respective campuses during the spring semester. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And while I'm asking this question, Doc, I would like for you to give the board just some sense from about a 50,000 foot level of the system-wide impact that we're going to enjoy as a result of the most recent CARES COVID stimulus packet. But I know in one of our previous conversations about in your anticipation of the return of these students from the spring semester who have been gone since November, and we've seen a spike, unfortunately, nationwide in infection rates, positive infection rates. Are you planning? I understand you're going to have them tested prior to coming, but have you given consideration to a protocol that maybe requires testing on an ongoing basis? I've read where a lot of institutions are requiring their students to be tested on a weekly basis. I believe I saw a news account where Tulane has become a major source of information because they are requiring their students to be tested on it, and it empowers them from a contact tracing standpoint, and they've been able to sort of keep a firm grip on exposure. What thoughts have we given to employing a similar model?
Well, I appreciate the question. We are really trying to finalize our protocols as it relates to testing. And so, as I pointed out, we feel like we have sufficient supply to go forth with ongoing testing throughout this spring So we're looking at different intervals of testing based on cohorts. For example, the band and student athletes, they're going to be tested weekly. And so for the major student groups, we could test them on a weekly basis. Right now, I think there's an anticipation of testing residential students at least every 2 weeks, or something to that effect. That has not been finalized, but that's what we're leaning toward. And again, as we have already announced, we are requiring students to be tested and provide their results prior to moving into the dorms as they begin to come back on campus, I believe, next week. So we've already notified our student population to that effect. You had mentioned, but we continue, as you know, we continue to have the benefit of the National Guard who's testing on the campus. And our supply is being provided from not only LDH, but we have also received supplies in terms of tests from national entities through our relationship with Thurgood Marshall. And so we have a, I think, pretty good flow of products that gives us some comfort that we'll be able to fulfill whatever protocols that we establish. A little bit about the Second CARES Act that was most recently signed just before the holidays began. As you know, there were a number of benefits to bring relief to the citizens of this great country, and certainly it would benefit many within the state of Louisiana. But there were also provisions to support K through 12 and particularly higher education. And I would go further to submit that there were dedications even more so to support HBCUs in the state. There were several appropriations that are just literally historic. One where as and Dr. Ellis alluded to it, that loans that have been provided to HBCUs through the Capital Financing Program, a program that provides low interest loans exclusively to HBCUs, that the balance on that capital project nationally, I recall, was about $1.7 billion. For all HBCUs that had balances in keeping with their funding strategies to mediate conditions on their campuses, those loans were forgiven. For the Southern University system, that amounts to about just short of $50 million in loans that we would no longer have to pay. I think about 20 million of loans that support the acquisition of apartments on the Shreveport campus. And on this campus, I want to say about 27 million, something in that range, that supports, again, the acquisition of,
And I apologize for interrupting you, but members, I want to say this because there's a lot of things that go on. I want to thank Dr. Belton and his staff because he and I were in a meeting maybe around October, November of last year. And our own Senator Bill Cassidy, who
Sure.
serves on the Senate subcommittee, where these appropriations were considered in a more intimate fashion. And one of the things Dr. Belton said when I said, well, what would our wish list look like? He said, well, getting some relief on the debt service associated with those loans. Well, I personally reached out to Senator Cassidy and said, we'd like to talk to you about this. That night, about 8 o'clock, he and Senator Cassidy made his staff available to Dr. Belton and myself. We provided them with the backup information and said, if you can get this in the bill, now we know you're not just going to be able to do this for Southern, but you're going to have to do it nationwide. That would really help a lot of HBCUs. And he said, I will try. And he really got it done. And so I want to publicly thank him and everybody else in our delegation who may have assisted in this. But we specifically had a conference call with him and provided him with the details about getting that done. So I want to thank him for doing that.
Well, it has a significant impact on our campuses. As Dr. Ellen said, it brings him about $800,000 in relief in terms of debt service payments. For the Baton Rouge campus, I think it's going to probably provide almost $1.2 million, something like that, in terms of debt relief on an annual basis. That money would obviously be unallocated for our respective purposes. We always have needs, Mr. Chair. What has not been talked about very much was Southern University A&M College being one of 19 1890 institutions. I think Dr. McMeans probably would prefer to have given the announcement that the allocation for scholarships for those 19 institutions have increased by, I believe, $10 million. And so, whereas I think right now, and Dr. McMeans could correct me when he speaks, because he clearly knows more about it. But I think right now where we are providing through that program about $700,000 in scholarships, that increase would enable us to provide additional scholarships to students. What is most historic is the appropriations that we would receive to support the challenges that has already been demonstrated to HBCUs. The dollars that we received last year, we actually thought it was a windfall, but quite frankly, as we began to recognize what we must do to prepare the campus such that we could demonstrate to students and families that our environment was safe. Those dollars were pulled down fairly quickly, but they did rise at that time to, as I recall, how much was it, about 43 million, Mac, for the system? Or was it high? About 39 million for the entire system. And those disbursements were to support things like anticipated shortfalls in enrollment, and also included emergency grants that we distributed to students. And so this time around, we believe the language has not been established as of yet, but we believe that our allocation will be, in some cases, twofold and possibly threefold the amount that we received last year this time. And there's some numbers being thrown out. And I've heard that for our system, it could, for the Baton Rouge campus alone, it could rise to as much as $47 million. But again, those numbers have not been published as of yet. But the good thing is the legislation has been approved, so it is forthcoming. And And we know the total dollar amount that has been allocated for that pool, I think is $1.4 billion to support HBCU. So proportionately, we know that our allocation will be significant.
One thing I've asked Dr. Belton, and I'm getting ready to recognize Dr. Whitfield, but I want to say this before I recognize him. Two things. One, I've asked Dr. Belton to be very strategic in his thinking about how we utilize this money once the rules are finally written in terms of what and how and under what circumstances it can be used.
Right.
I do know the legislature, if there isn't a supplemental appropriation that will go to states and municipalities because they were not included in the latest round, the state of Louisiana is bracing for a significant financial shortfall.
That's correct.
The number that I've heard is somewhere around 100 million or so. And so if we do have to suffer such or eat that kind of a number, we all know higher ed is number 1 or 2 on the list. So we've got to squirrel away
Yes.
some of that for some lean times. Hopefully, Congress will provide some supplemental appropriation to states and municipalities that will sort of ease that burden. But the only other thing that I would add that members that I've asked Dr. Belton to do, I've had conversation with Dr. Whitfield, who is supportive, Dr. Brown, is for Southern University to give to lead an initiative statewide on vaccine education. I have personally spoken to 4, 5, 6 members of my own family and friends who were 70 or above, who the pharmacy had called to say, we can put you on the list, who expressed ambivalence and reluctance about taking the vaccine. And the more that I have spoken largely about this, it's spotty, but I believe that we ought to give some leadership, and we can identify some of the resources that we're going to get out of this appropriation through faith-based community, civic and social justice organizations, Greek letter organizations, and for Southern University to give leadership to a statewide education campaign, such that if an individual does decide that he or she is not going to take the vaccine, minimally they will make an informed decision, as opposed to something they may or may not have read on the internet or somebody rumored innuendo. And I think that's vitally important because there are far too many of us who are frankly uninformed about the study that was undertaken, the number of people who participated, what the results were, the approval process, and so forth. So I hope that we can pull something together and have it perhaps for the board's consideration at the February meeting. Dr. Whitfield.
Oh, yes, thanks. First, want to apologize. I had to step away, but I'm in full support of Dr. Ammons and congratulations to Dr. Ammons. We're looking forward to some big things. Des Moines, you kind of stole my thunder as Dr. Belton talked about,
Sorry.
COVID. Oh, no problem. COVID testing and what have you. Coming on the campus today, as you know, they check your temperatures as they go in. And one of the questions I was going to ask after I mentioned some of these other things was about how we would handle someone with the elevated temperature that's coming on campus that may not be a student, or a student that stepped away to get something to eat and came back and maybe there's a faulty reading. So not to answer that now, Dr. Belton, but I would like to take a look at those protocols and maybe even get with Christy because I know she has some insight on this as well. But secondly, or thirdly, it's dismissive for some to think that it's only Tuskegee that has African Americans timid about taking the COVID vaccine. And the Tuskegee and me even had me questioning, whether we should do something that was done so quickly. And, we have new technology. And so many would say, well, you're going to choose, you're going to choose Tuskegee or experiments that were done on African Americans over the science. But you have to think about the many other things that were done to African Americans and continue today. There's still discrepancies and disparities in how African Americans are treated in the hospitals. Many times we're told that, we have higher pain thresholds, we're not treated as aggressively, we're diagnosed later in the stages of disease processes. And this is even when somebody has insurance and is well educated. many things can sometimes go unmissed because there's some cultural disparities. And so I think what you said, Des Moines, is absolutely true. Even if we're not going out at Southern University saying you have to take the vaccine, I think there's a responsibility upon us. And you got Dr. Brown, we got the nursing community on campus to educate our community about vaccines, what's going on now, until people feel comfortable that we have African Americans participating in not just the production, but the distribution, packaging, and administration of these vaccines. It's going to take a while because there's been some studies coming out that say about 70% of the United States, and that's white and black, saying that they will consider or take the vaccine. But when you talk to African Americans, there's about 50% that think that they will not do it. And you got to remember that at the same time as we were eradicating polio, the Tuskegee experiments were going on, but they're also doing things that came in the 1800s, experimenting on black women, pouring hot water on African-American patients. There were things done in the prison systems that were done to African-American patients that were not controlled studies. So there's a lot of barriers to jump over. So just because we have this vaccine or vaccines available now doesn't mean that everybody's going to jump on that bandwagon. So I just want to make those statements and say that the one I'm on board and whatever I can do to help to facilitate that. I've talked to a few doctors since you and I talked that were interested in participating. And I think Christy could be very insightful and helpful in getting something moving forward on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, board members, I recommend to your reading. I read a wonderful book several years ago, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks.
Yes, yes.
Which sounds a lot of the themes that Dr. Whitfield has touched upon. Any questions, comments regarding the president's report before we move to the chancellor's report? All right. I see my board members' faces, so we'll move right along. Dr. Thomas. We'll first go now to Dr. Ammons. Any additional comments, Dr. Ammons?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I just have a few things that I would like to highlight. One is that the city of New Orleans has gone into a modified phase 1. Mayor Cantrell made the announcement on yesterday. While we don't think that it is going to impact us or impact SUNO greatly, because we plan to deliver our courses online and virtually anyway. However, we do have some administrative functions and academic functions like academic advisement that will make some adjustments in how we do that by leveraging technology-based platforms, Zoom, WebEx, et cetera. We're also partnering with New Orleans East for testing. We have made a requirement that those students who return to the campus and live in the residential facility, if they present a negative test. And again, we're working with New Orleans East to come up with a testing protocol. At the last board meeting, I mentioned to you that the Peyton Manning Foundation was going to make a major gift to SUNO. It was through the match, which was an exhibition golf tournament that included Peyton Manning, Stephon Curry, Charles Barkley, and Phil Mickelson. As a result of that tournament, the university received a little over $216,000 from the Peyton Manning Institute. And we are using those funds to develop an endowed scholarship in honor of Dr. Artis Davenport, the legendary track and field coach at SUNO. Additionally, the Kellogg Foundation has awarded the University a planning grant of $50,000 to begin the development of a child development center in the School of Education at SUNO. One of the things that we have found during the pandemic is that childcare has created a significant barrier for some of our students. And we're gonna work with extreme haste in developing this center on the campus. The partnership with DXC is paying off in a big way. We now have students who are receiving IBM badges and Amazon Web Services certifications, some of the highest demand credentials in society today. And so I wanted to acknowledge DXC. And also, as you can see from the agenda, our relationships with the city of New Orleans continue to evolve and continue to show strength. Through the Wisner Grant, through this educational partnership with students will be allowed to have expanded opportunities for internships with the city. The city has asked us to develop educational modules for employees of the city. And one of the big issues that we deal with in the city of New Orleans is grief and also trauma. And the School of Social Work with Dean Chason and Dr. Sanders will develop this center for families that focuses on children to a large extent to deal with grief and trauma in the community. So those are some of the highlights from SUNO. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ammons. We'll go now to Dr. Ellis.
Good morning again. The Chancellor's report for SUSLA is enclosed in your packets. However, would just like to say Happy New Year, and I look forward to seeing you all next month in person.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. We'll go now to Dr. McMeans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everybody, and Happy New Year. And also congratulations to my colleague, Dr. Ammons, on his appointment. I have 3 items. I think Dr. Belton stepped in there and stole a little bit of my thunder, but I'll proceed as it relates to the scholarship. As it relates to our extension program, we've been very fortunate last year. We received a significant increase, and to that fact, we're hiring 8 additional positions. And these are positions that will be strategic in that most of them will address some of the areas and issues that have been elucidated with the COVID virus. And so, and they include positions such as a public health specialist, regional public health agent, ag and natural resources agents who will deal with our farmers and growing hemp, as well as fruits and vegetables, and also a nutrition education program coordinator. And these are not just local positions, but they will be regional and statewide in scope and programmatic activities. And so we are truly excited, and there's some opportunities for us to partner with other institutions in the system, as well as other colleges on the Baton Rouge campus. As it relates to the College of Agriculture, Dr. Belton alluded to the fact that we did receive an increase, which the appropriations level equal the authorization level as relates to the David Scott 1890 scholarship. Each school will receive $1 million for the 21-22 academic year, and we are truly excited. Right now we have 59 students on that scholarship, and we are extremely excited. And I was, as I was talking to Dr. Marshall, the word's out about the scholarship, and so we're already getting people coming to us now. And so we think that's going to have a positive impact on the college as it relates to our numbers, and also address one of the issues that we collectively are working on at Southern University and at LSU to increase the number of individuals graduating in food and agricultural fields or related fields. And last but not least, speaking of USDA and the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, NIFA, which provides all of the funding for all of the 100 plus land grant institutions in the countries and in the territory. But on December 23rd of 2020, Secretary of Agriculture, Perdue, appointed as director of NIFA, Dr. Kerry Steele of Louisiana. And so this is a 6-year appointment. It's also one that requires Senate confirmation. And I bring this to your attention because the fact that this person will have the discretion to fund states and areas, and of course, Louisiana will be in line. And also, we have current faculty and staff that are currently have a relationship with Dr. Castile, and Dr. Walker is arranging for us to meet and to work with these individuals on her staff and her directly. So we're excited about that, and we think that all of us will benefit from that relationship. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. McMeans. Chancellor Pierre.
Good morning again. First of all, I want to congratulate Dr. Ammons for his appointment as Senior Chancellor. I want to congratulate all and welcome all the new board members and returning board members, and of course, our board chairman and vice chair, Southern University Law Center alums. We're very, very proud of you. We mentioned, I think Dr. Williams mentioned that Attorney Clayton was elected. Well, obviously he was elected, but he was sworn in as district attorney in West Baton Rouge. In addition, 2 other Southern University alums were sworn in this week as district attorneys. One in Calcasieu Parish in the form of Stephen Dwight, and the other in St. Landry Parish in the form of Mr. Petrie. In addition to that, and I have to keep count, I sometimes lose count, I know of at least 15 Southern University Law Center alums that were elected into judgeships who received investitures this week. And that's just in South Louisiana. I'm still trying to get caught up in North Louisiana. It may be as many as 20. So we are seeing significant increases for our law center. We have been very, very blessed at the Southern University Law Center through some generous finagling and good work by Mr. Hall and others, that we are introducing for the first time in the state of Louisiana a telepresent immersive classroom. And we worked very, very hard to get this together. And this is in collaboration with the North Carolina Central University Law School. The state of North Carolina has been way ahead of this for many, many years, and NCCU has been able to do this. And we believe that with this addition, that we will be able to help transform instructional delivery and so many things within the Southern University system and the state of Louisiana. And we invite those of you who can today come by the Law Center and see what we've done. We're still working on a few things, but I think you will like what you see. And we're going to have a new toy to utilize, and that's just one of several that we plan to bring into the Southern University Law Center. So I'm very proud of that. And actually, Dr. McMeans, the funding for that came from USDA. So there are great things happening at USDA, and we'll figure out more things that we can do. And as part of the CARES Act, there's some opportunities for 5G funding. And I want to also congratulate a new member of the Board of Regents that is a Southern University Law Center alum, former U.S. Attorney Stephanie Finley, who is now a member of the Board of Regents. And again, as always, I want to thank the board, and I want to congratulate Judge Clark, who will be our inaugural distinguished jurist for the Law Center. And we look forward to working with this great board as 2021 starts, and we continue to do great things because of the great work of the board and allowing us the ability to do the things that we need to do at the Law Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Pierre. We now go to Dr. Sahu. We thank Dr. Sahu for bearing with us. I believe it's 11 p.m. where he is.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Sahu.
Honorable Chairperson, Mr. President, members of the board, Happy New Year. And I would like to also join others in congratulating Dr. Ammons in becoming the Chancellor of Southern University at New Orleans. And we will work to support his work there. I want to commit again to say that we live by our mission to provide a student-centered learning environment. That is our primary goal and our primary commitment. And in keeping with that, there was a request by the students, the graduating class, to host an in-person commencement. They made that request to the President Chancellor, and I want to commend the President Chancellor for having faith in us and helping us, host that. And we had a very successful and a beautiful commencement outdoors with more than 300 students participating, and our own graduate alumnus, the chair of the Commissioner of Higher Education, Kim Hunter-Reid, Dr. Kim Hunter-Reid, was our chief guest. It was a beautiful day for Southern University. I would like to also highlight that we gained reaffirmation or reaccreditation was confirmed by Southern Association, SAC-COC, without any conditions, and we had to rework our QEP, and it was accepted as it was presented. And I would like to recognize the team effort and the leadership that was provided by one and all at SUBR campus. I also want to lastly highlight that we are introducing a new minor in entrepreneurship that is planned for non-business majors. I think this is significant in the sense that we want to focus on self-reliance, self-sustainability, and there is enough evidence that if there are more businesses that are opened by African Americans, that will lead to more and better employment for African American graduates and African American population in general. So I think we have a moral responsibility, and we also have a unique opportunity being a system, the only system in the country to provide entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurship help to the people of Louisiana, and to help them start their own business or to further strengthen the businesses they are in. I will provide a more detailed report the next time. I want to conclude by saying that yes, I'm away and I'm flying. I have an early morning flight tomorrow, and then I'm flying back to Baton Rouge. But I'm here working to enlarge and enhance the global footprint of Southern University, and recruiting mostly for computer science and also for the STEM education. But I was really pleasantly surprised with the institution that we have an MOU. When I visited, they're expressing strong interest in our agriculture program. They're expressing strong interest in our urban forestry and also in our environmental toxicology. And that is something new that I wouldn't have been aware of if I had not visited these campuses. So upon my return, I will provide a report to the president and also give a copy to Dr. Ammons and to Dr. McMeans in terms of how we can collaborate with these institutions, which also are very strong, and they're founded on the American, American academic, arrangement in terms of semesters and credit hours. This concludes my report, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sahu. We go now to item 12, other business. Members, is there any other business? Any other business? I would highlight two sort of, yes, yes, ma'am. Mrs. Smith? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. And Happy New Year to all of the board members and the administration. We've had a very good meeting. I wanted to ask one additional thing, and that is in our next board meeting, can we get an update on our education department?
Yes, ma'am.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll add that to the list. Also, Dr. McMeans, we'd like to add to the list for a medical marijuana update in February.
Yes, sir.
And I believe that we agreed, Dr. Belton, that we would have on each meeting an update as to where we are with our online piece. So let's make sure we add that to February as well. Members.
May I add something, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely, Dr. Davis.
I know that we've been having some challenges since the pandemic. And as far as what type of platforms that we have in place, I just like to have Dr. Sahu give us an update on how this is going, because I've heard, I've talked with a number of faculty members. I'm a former faculty member, so I've talked with some faculty members. I understand the faculty is having some challenges. Particularly the students are having challenges. So I'd just like to have an update on how that's going and what we're doing to mitigate the challenges that both faculty and students are having.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Make certain we add that.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
We don't
Thank you,
don't
sir.
need it today necessarily.
Okay.
Can
I
we
will
have the
provide
next
a
board
more.
meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, next board meeting, please.
Okay, thank you. Any other members? Any others? Just two housekeeping matters, members. Miss Taylor Jarrell is making a, I don't know if she's already emailed it, but disregard if she hasn't. Okay, you will be getting the meeting dates, the schedule for this year here very shortly. Currently, the February meeting is scheduled to be virtual. Currently, the February meeting is scheduled to be virtual. Now, this is not as easy as before. It's going to be reliant on what the conditions are and whether or not there is an existing executive order issued by the governor, because the legislature made some changes to how you can do this virtually in the special session. So I am taking the advice of our council in terms of when we can host a virtual meeting. You'll see on the schedule that we want to try to return to face-to-face meetings in March. Frankly, I don't know whether or not we will be able to or not. It's going to be determined. That's going to be heavily influenced by what the COVID conditions are like. I've heard from a number of you who are concerned about a gathering. I appreciate and respect that. Ideally, I'd like for us all to be together, but unfortunately, these are circumstances that are beyond all of our control. So you'll be getting the schedule here very shortly. I had hoped to have the committee assignments completed, but I did get some requests yesterday that I'm considering moving some people around. I really want to give some new people an opportunity to be chair and some other things. So I will get that to you next week. Is there any other business, any other questions, any other comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Offer.
It's been moved. Okay. Take care, members. See you next month.